Greetings and grand day to you. Mm-hmm. All right, thanks for being here. I'm doing this outside because, well, why not? It's really nice out. It's quite beautiful, actually. And if you don't know, I spend pretty much 90% of my day outside when I can, just because, well, actually, we're going to go into that. Mostly because of trauma reasons, which I'm just figuring out. So today's video is going to be talking about healing the mother wound, healing in general, and then I'll leave some healing tips. And, but I'm encouraged to say now in the beginning of this is, even though I may not be talking specifically about the goddess, I think that this is goddess energy. I think this is Sybil energy, because I think that the two are similar. I think Sybils and goddesses are pretty much one and the same, especially when it comes to, say, like Cumae and the story about her being the nursemaid to Zeus's son, and then names getting changed and all that. The reason why I say that is because without this kind of healing and, kind of retrospect looking at things, or retrospect thinking, which is how my understanding of a lot of the Sybils' work was, and the mothers, they would think about things and be like, well, how did this happen, and how can we change it, and what can we do to help people heal? So with this, I'll start with that story. So it took me a long time to figure it out, but I've loved being outside since I was a kid. Why? Because that was literally that was either a punishment or what we were to do for the day, is go be outside. And I started thinking the other day, if I could remember times as a kid just hanging out with my mom and really just kind of like having mother-daughter time, or even with my brother and my mom, or there were times it was my brother and my dad, but my dad didn't really handle my dad was an addict when he was my father, or when I was a child. So that was my experience. He was an alcoholic, and so when we did spend time with him, he often would get very drunk and sometimes completely forget about us and pass out. So we'd be hanging out at some hotel or something, just basically by ourselves in the dark, waiting for our dad. But he did try to have time with us, with just him. Or maybe that was my mom forcing him to take us. I don't know. But in my last relationship that I've now been out of for a little over 2 years is where I really started noticing that I have these trauma responses to so many things. And one of them was, I remember I used to get so mad at him because they would never be in the house. Like, if they were hanging out, they would always be outside or in their car, or never in the house. They could never sit in the house and like watch a movie or be on their phone in the house. Granted, it's beautiful here and it's nice to be outside, but I'm talking about when it's not beautiful outside and it's not warm. Even in the coldest of days, I would find him outside. And at first, I couldn't figure out why it used to bother me so much. And actually, I didn't even really figure it out until the relationship was completely over. Because at that point, I was just trying to figure out all the triggers that were keeping me in the mental and physical and spiritual state that I was in, and trying to understand how I got in it, and like, what is it even, what is this, what is happening? And starting to learn about narcissism and codependency and that type of people pleasing and trauma responses and all that kind of stuff. And so, more recently, so then it was, and I've said this in other videos where I was like, even though I got out of that relationship, I knew that I'd be doing work around my mom who adopted me, because that's where, well, both mothers, really, my mom who gave me up for adoption and my mother who adopted me, because those were the roots of the traumas and the basis of where I needed to start healing. So, I knew the mother part would be even harder than the relationship part, because there's something about your mother, even if you know she's no good for you. It's this weird addiction. It's this attachment style that happens. And so I started noticing that in certain situations where I can feel, specifically because she's had health problems her whole entire life, and this is where I think it bases like a lot of so many things. And I could feel when she's not feeling good, and oftentimes when she's not feeling good, she would start bitching at me about something or complain about something or ask me to do something that she knows I don't want to do, even now as an adult. And so I had the feeling immediately, like, get out of the house. And I was like, oh my gosh. So it's highly possible that actually my partner at the time had a similar trauma response to being in the house around somebody who's not comfortable. Then again, like, it was a whole spelling purposeful thing, so that's a whole nother part of it. But when I didn't know that part fully, and I was just going off of the basic responses in my body. So that's what we're moving into. That's where it comes from. It's the body. It's your nervous system. So, in all these discussions about spiritual psychosis, about healing trauma, about healing the mother wound, we're all on a good general path. But what I've recognized, even for myself, is not enough information about the body. Us. We're constantly being told, know thyself. Well, most people don't even know how their own bodies work. And we're still trying to figure out what to put in it. And we're doing meditations and all that kind of stuff. And it does help. But unless you fully understand the emotional side of it, you can be eating healthy. You can clean out your whole entire system. You can be meditating. You can be bringing in essential oils, yoga, all the stuff. But if your emotional nervous system hasn't been healed, your nervous system is going to show you what you keep doing to keep going back into that same, because your nervous system has your muscles, your nervous system. Your nervous system is what controls your breathing and your blood and your heart. So do you have control over that? You have control over your breathing for a certain amount of point, but you can't stop breathing on purpose. You know what I'm saying? You can't hold your breath until you pass out. Well, I guess you can, but typically once you pass out, you start breathing again. That's your nervous system. It's going to do it for you. You can't make it. You know, that's the only thing that we have in the nervous system that we have some control over, is our breathing. But all the rest of it is automatic. That's why it's called an autonomic nervous system, because it's automatic. It is going to do what it needs to do to protect and preserve the body. Period. So, when it comes to trauma healing, the first thing to start doing is tapping into how you feel, because that's what your nervous system does. Your nervous system is also geared to send a signal to your brain about how you're feeling. And what's happened in what I consider the spell of the world is you've been indoctrinated into ignoring how you feel. Ignore your pains, especially women. Ignore your pains, especially while you're having your period, and don't talk about it because it's gross and no one wants to talk about it. That's the generation I grew up in. This is totally changing, and I think that's super awesome. But it's still a certain kind of mindset. And as I say that, so something interesting showed itself to me while I was doing some of these practices to learn about helping and healing the nervous system. And one of them is, it's called the dignity muscles. Okay. Now, for myself, one of the things that, well, during this practice, one of the things you're to do is to imagine dignity, what dignity looks like. And what showed up for me, gosh darn it, I hate to admit this, but this is important, and when it comes to recognizing mindsets and how we've been conditioned, is, I want to get the Folgers out of the way there. It's just because it's distracting, so. And there you can see more nature. Is all the images of not distinguished, what did I say? Dignity were males. And then I was like, as I was doing the practice, I was like, wow, because in my mind, I think mostly about like women and the goddess and sibyls and how distinguished and how much dignity they have. And so once I caught myself, I was like, okay, I'm going to start imagining all the women I see with dignity, all the like high, because if I'm imagining that it's only men who have dignity, even if I didn't consciously, like I wouldn't have consciously recognized that until I did that exercise. So, if you happen to notice my shirt, it's just a hand-me-down. I don't deal with politics, even though this shit is fucked up. Okay. So with that is two things. One is, hey, you guys, there is a way to help reprogram your nervous system. That's what's so rad. That's basically what we're all, when it comes to like somatic work, when it comes to emotional work, that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about basically soothing and healing the nervous system. And we're also repatterning and reprogramming. So it's awesome if you do happen to notice like, oh man, all the things that came to my mind were this. Then you can say to yourself, oh, that might be why I have internalized certain things. Like maybe I don't deserve dignity, or and that actually did show up. You know, there was a part of me, as I was imagining dignity, another part of me was like, you don't deserve to have dignity. And then it was like the dignity being like, hey, yes, everyone does, right? Like everyone deserves that, and that's okay. And it's actually really cool that you can see that pendulum, that duality. And that brings me to another point. Something I didn't realize. So I'm a brown girl who was adopted to a predominantly white family. So I've had to adapt to a dual perspective. Now, most people will not even understand, because two things. One is either they were born into their family and everyone around them looks like them. So the dual perception is my reality, which is racism, people treating me different because of how I look, people treating me different because of their theory about their constructed social construct of brown people have advice, but they can't possibly know anything that comes to anything else, so we can go to them for spiritual advice, but we don't want to talk to them about anything that actually is, you know, like historical or needs to be researched, because I'm going to go to somebody who looks like me to give me that information. Not me, but them. They're going to find someone who looks like them to give them that information, because for some reason, coming from someone who doesn't look like them makes it not true. I don't quite understand that one. But there's a dual perspective going on, because I see how things are, but I also see how I need to fit into them. And so when it comes to trauma, you'll do the same thing. You will see how things are, especially if you're in a toxic family environment, or a family that doesn't want to talk about things, or a family who avoids certain conversations, right? You yourself are going to have this dual perspective where you have your perspective and you can see what's going on, but then you also have the perspective of you needing to survive within that group. And so when it comes to healing the nervous system, that's what you're doing. You need emotional intelligence, which I've talked about. You can Google it. You can look up emotional intelligence, which is basically other words to describe how you're feeling. So, for example, recently I've had to take care of some things, and my immediate word is like, I'm so frustrated. I'm really good with that word. I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. It's a good word. I think I like it because it has a lot of syllables. It's better than saying I'm upset. I'm so frustrated. It's got the fur in the front of it. But truly, the word was more unsettled. I was unsettled. And then I could look at another one and say it was tiring or repetitive or taxing or annoying. Like, there's so many other words to use besides frustrated. And that's the key, because the more words you have to describe how you're feeling, you have more words to describe how you're feeling to somebody else, and just to be able to speak up more. You actually end up helping your throat chakra open up, because you are bringing in more words to be expressed through your heart-throat connection, your throat chakra. And then, okay. So yes, I'm creating a course. Well, you know what? I'm just going to say that I have the idea of creating a course, because we'll see. Okay, it's me. I mean, I'm writing a book, I'm doing art, I'm making candles, I have my regular job, I take care of my mom and the animals, and then I have a yard to take care of, and also things like bills to pay and licenses and, all this, take care of my business over here, take care of my mom over here, take care of the house, and then it's like trying to bring in like healing and my future, because my goal is to move into a more just a different energetics of healing, because massage can be really hard on the body. So with all that, I think I'm ready. I think I'm ready to so this video will be both on YouTube and my Patreon, because the goal is to have more, not the goal, I will have more information. Oh, my cat is eating something I would rather her not be eating. Hold on. I'm just gonna let her eat it. Well, hopefully it's something she's supposed to eat. Not, you know what I mean. Anyways, I'm just gonna... Blue! Hey! She's in it. She's deep in it. Beginning to help with this process, because there's some other things I've learned on my own that I think are super important. This includes like aromatherapy, certain exercises, and certain actual discussions about like where there might be a sense of confusion or a sense of questioning, like, am I the narcissist, right? I've been through this 1,000 times, where they say if you ask that question, you're probably not one. However, it is important to recognize if you are having unhealthy narcissistic, characteristics, people-pleasing characteristics, because they're both forms of manipulation. And then bring it into practice, like saying no, saying yes, saying I've changed my mind, and being okay to deal with the consequences, because it's lonely. Like, I didn't realize that once I stopped being a people pleaser, how many people would leave my life. I mean, I'm still kind of in awe. And then there's people that are not, they're not maybe in a space to come here to this part of, like, whether it's family or friends, of talking about things and healing through things, because that's definitely also happened in the last, with the technology age. Like, talking about things has become like taxing to people rather than, something to build trust and connection. So, and I will continue to share things here because I just feel like it's super important. So, when it comes to healing the nervous system, because when the nervous system is at a place where it's completely like overworked, triggered, over traumatized, it's a state of such kind of like lowness that it's very hard to get out of. But like a ladder, you can get back to the top, but that's also part of it. Like, in a lot of the spiritual communities, people, and even in gaslighting, when it comes to healing, people will say, like, you just need to get over it. You focus on the past too much. Well, I will speak about this in the brain and the nervous system. When your nervous system is triggered, your brain is going to ruminate. That's what it's supposed to do. Your brain is supposed to try to figure out, what is the threat and how do I survive, or how do I take care of it? And so sometimes your brain answers that question for you without, your brain's not going to be like, hey, I'm going to shut down your nervous system. I'm going to start shutting down your nervous system so that you can survive the body. Your nervous system isn't going to tell you that. And those who know that this is what happens to your nervous system isn't going to tell you that. But I'm going to tell you that. This is what happens to your nervous system. And you can't just meditate your way out of it, or exercise your way out of it, or go to a retreat your way out of it, or pray your way out of it. Those all help. They are all wonderful tools. But the thing that will actually heal your nervous system is healing your nervous system. Figuring out what your traumas are. And possibly checking into EMDR. Because this is where parts work or shadow work can become so much more clearer, because you are working through the timeline to now, so that you are actually kind of catching your nervous system up to yourself. Because sometimes my nervous system, before I started doing EMDR, even with my talk therapy, even with everything that I have shared with you, look, I'm a massage therapist and I get massages regularly, and I like I said, I have talk therapy, and I watch videos, and oh my gosh, singing bowls and sound and all the stuff, but it doesn't always completely erase that part of me that's like has anxiety or fears or doubts or self-worth questions, right? So as we worked through the parts work, specifically when I was burned as a child, as a baby, as an infant, did I recognize that, yes, that infant self completely separated itself from the me that I have been pretty much up until that session. And the burn me was like leading me through my life. The fear of being surprised by a burn. And all the things that I internalized as a child, because how else am I supposed to figure that out? How is a child supposed to cognitively figure out what's happening to them? And then just because you tell somebody that this is what happened to you, it doesn't mean they automatically heal from that. And then the actual kind of like disassociation or like the dismissiveness of like, well, you were fine is also mentally, it literally affects the nervous system. So if you're like, I was in pain, I was struggling, and someone's like, you were not in pain, you were not struggling, that affects your nervous system. And then you tell yourself, okay, well, I'm going to focus on only the positive things. And then something happens. Guess what? That's going to affect your nervous system. And so also there's like the repeated healing and the repeated trauma that happens because this isn't being addressed. How do you think it feels for people who have underlying trauma that has not been healed, that they've done all these affirmations and things start looking good and then it falls down, and you listen to things like The Secret and other things where they're like, it was almost there if you just stayed focused? No. It's your nervous system saying, trigger warning. This thing that this person wants is actually rooted behind a fear that they are afraid to look at, and until they look at it, that of which they want is out of reach. You know, and there are I'm not going to say that there are not miraculous healings or overnight healings or epiphanies. But I will say this, your body is still going to process. So you might have an overnight epiphany and have a ton of energy and feel really, really good. And then 5th day in, you're bawling your eyes out in cradle position or child's pose, and you kind of don't understand what happened. Well, it's because you've had, from 15, I don't know how old you are, but from childhood to whatever age you are, has been hanging out in your nervous system waiting to be healed. So you're going to release that, and that's when you know that you're in a different part of healing, because you'll understand. You'll have that emotional part, and you'll say, oh my gosh, where is this coming from? And then your body's like, whoa, you just did all that somatic release, remember? You just released all these emotions. You just healed this part of yourself. You just integrated your body. Like, that's going to take a while to heal. And if you do have overnight healing from, say, any dis-ease, your body will need to rest. And you will need to process some things. So there might be crying. You might have weird, outlandish laughing. I've talked about this before. It happens. It shows up. Okay. And so, I hope this helps, because it certainly helped me. It helped specifically with the shame of so many of my choices. Because once you understand that your nervous system, now this isn't an excuse to go and, I'm not saying that these are scientific, biological facts. Your nervous system is also needing healing. So you can heal your thoughts. Absolutely, you can heal your thoughts by ruminating on things that you want, and bring that in. And you definitely change your vibration, and you definitely raise things. But as you're doing that, things are going to show up in your life to show you what needs to be healed. And if we're unawares of our nervous system's reaction and how to help our nervous system through that healing, again, you can do all the stuff. Yes, and it helps you change your eating, begin meditation, begin walking, drink more water, drink more juices, all those things will help. But if there's an underlying trauma that you're not seeing it. So how can it be healed? Let me see. So, and then when you're practicing healing, these are a lot of the things that are shown up to you. You know, pray about it, talk to your ancestors about it. Yes, do all those things. But the healing of the nervous system and healing those traumas, and it's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. We didn't get here overnight. So it's a practice. So yeah, again, if you're interested in the classes, check out my Patreon, and we begin with, how do you feel right now? How do you feel? How does your body feel? How are you feeling emotionally? How am I feeling? So I'll tell you right now. So I've been sitting here for a little bit, about 30 minutes. So my bum's a little numb. My body is feeling good, and I'll share with you why. I'm excited to share that part with you. And I would say I feel a little melancholy, meaning I feel good, but there's a sense of sorrow in that. One, I know that there's a lot of people struggling with this and how hard that can be. And then the other side is like, it's beautiful outside. The weather's really nice, especially in the shade. And I see my lavender flowers are really blooming. It's so cool. And I have some iris flowers that are about to bloom. I'll probably do some watering. But it also helps me feel good to do these videos. So I do that. Every morning I check in. Sometimes I have to do it more than once a day. But that's where I started. I started with how do I feel? Okay. The basics. Watch yourself. Start paying attention to you. And then yes, this incorporates how are you feeling. So you can start with how am I feeling, and what will end up happening. So you kind of start watching yourself, or you can say I'm going to start watching myself, checking in with myself. How do I feel? What am I doing? Because I am doing a video right now. Why am I doing a video? One is for me. Two is if this information helps you guys, double awesome, right? And we start there because this is not an easy path. It requires it requires the possibility of total loneliness. And this doesn't mean like you're single. This means friends and family no longer hanging out, or you not wanting to hang out with them. Possible breakups or makeups. There's accountability involved where there's apologizing to the self and to others. And then there is the where do I begin? How do I come back to myself again? Because when you're going through this process, even though you're an adult, you're simulating the past so that you could be in yourself here now in this present future that your body is in, that your soul is in, that your mind is in, your spirituality is in, but where your nervous system might still be in the past. You can bring everything up to date, so to speak, in your body. Now, okay, So moving on to some healing tips and such. I will share it in my community on YouTube, a video about making magnesium oil, and she goes into some great nutritional tips that I was not aware of. Of course, I'm not a doctor, and I don't know if she's a doctor or not. She might be a doctor, but always check with a professional who knows about these things. I'm not prescribing. I'm just going to share the video, and I'm going to share my experience with you. So in the video, she talks about making magnesium oil, and she explains as to why it's important to make it. Now, in my profession, I am aware that a lot of people are magnesium deficient, and one of the best ways you can get magnesium into the body is topically, meaning through your skin. You rub it on your skin or take a bath in it, right? Well, she breaks it down. And she breaks down some things about magnesium in the body and nutrition and just how easy it is to make. And I did make some. So I made some. Also, I've been taking classes. And one of the classes was essential oils. Now, I've always used essential oils, and I promote essential oils within my own business, but my own profession and business. And also, there's some things so the reason why I'm bringing them up is because, yes, so part of the classes I was taking was going through the nervous system and healing and certain practices to help the healing. And I'll go into more details in that on my Patreon. And about 2 days later, I had a crash breakdown, and on top of like a whole bunch of things were going wrong, and some of my anxiety popped back up because some weird shit happens. So my anxiety is going to kick in when some weird things happen. Like I said, that's what it's supposed to do. And I broke down, and I was feeling really, really down. Really, really down. Like, what's the point? And at one point I asked, why am I feeling like this? And my body was like, well, you just did do like 2 days with somatic releasing exercises in a row. What did you expect? And I was like, oh, that's right. But in that, I had some muscle aches because I also did some weed eating. And so one of the things was talking about how essential oils can help with mood, memory, with aches and pains, with sleep. And I'm like, wait a minute, I forgot about that. So what I've started doing and what I did immediately after finishing that class, so I've been having some leg pain and arm pain. And the arm pain is pretty normal. It's a turkey vulture. Can you guys see it? There it is. There it is. I was having some pain in my arms from work and from weed eating. So with the magnesium oil, she was saying that you can rub it right on the spot, and what'll happen is, like, if you need magnesium there, it sounds like it works very similar to like castor oil. Wherever you put it, it will go to work there immediately. And after the essential oil class and all the scientific proof that these oils help to reduce pain and antispasmodic and anti-inflammatory, I was like, okay, hold on, I'm gonna go grab them. And I did. I used some, and also you want to make sure that the oils are very high percentage, basically therapeutic, meaning they're so pure that if you were to eat them, they would not do anything to your body. They would be literally therapeutic, as if you were eating the plant itself in its most highest potency. So I'm not going to push any companies until maybe I'm a part of one of them, but you want to do your research. You want to make sure that they've done their research to let you know how well. You want to see how it's processed and that there's no solvents involved with the process of the essential oils. So I put peppermint and a blend with basically wintergreen and eucalyptus and another one on my leg, and within seconds the pain was completely gone. Put some on my arm, pain completely gone. Then I waited a little bit, and then I got the magnesium oil that I made and put it on my leg and my arms, and I'm like, look, like I'm in a good mood. I have energy. I mean, man, wow. And I'm bringing in the essential oils mainly, not just for pain relief, but for my mood, because I was literally asking, I don't know what else to do. I've done all the stuff. I've done all the stuff that you're supposed to do to help yourself through this kind of stuff. Yeah, anyways. So the essential oils reminded me. So, if that's your thing, if you're having trouble with your mood or with body pain or fatigue or anything like that, and you've tried everything else, maybe try some essential oils. Just throwing that out there. Like, again, I'm not a doctor, but my tick. We got all kinds of critters out here. My experience was immediate relief. The essential oils specifically. And then this morning, first thing this morning, some lavender. And I have some sage. Essential oil. And oh my gosh, you guys. That's like one of my favorites. It's just beautiful. And then what I've also been doing is, because it's getting a little warmer, but I want to keep the house kind of like fresh, is I'll take some of that peppermint, red it between my hands, and put it in front of the fan. So it's kind of like putting it in the air without using a diffuser. And it just seems to brighten everything. So just some little, and some downloads that I got. So certain essential oils are like antiviral. So you can do magic to protect your computers or your, right? Antimicrobial. So you can use those. You can also use those essential oils in spell work or in magic work or in ritual to bring in or get rid of certain things as well. They can stimulate like heart chakra, they stimulate the different chakra areas, and actually can move into different plant intelligence. And that's the plant intelligence, it's in there. That's not something that was downloaded to me. That is what essentials are. Essential oils are. They are the plant's essence, basically. So, okay. Those are castor oil packs. I've talked about those before. And then just recently I watched a video about helping to get rid of parasites. This is a bath. I'll share it with you. How to get rid of parasites, fungus, and nanotechnology. Some of these things I've spoken about before, so I'm going to mention boron. Boron, she said, specifically gets rid of nanotechnology. Let me explain why. So those, contrails that are in the sky that are actually not contrails, that, they want to convince us are, they have boron in them. Because boron will hold on to certain things almost microbially. So similar to fluorite and fluoride. So you can use fluorite, the stone, to help pull fluoride out of your body, because that's what it's made from. You can use boron to pull nanotechnology out of your body, because that's what they're using to put it into your body. So even though it has a big giant skull and bones on there, that is probably just a big giant hint. Saying that it's poisonous in small amounts you can ingest. I'm not a doctor, please look that up. And bathe in boron. So her suggestion was a cup of baking soda, a cup or 2 cups of boron, and some Epsom salts or magnesium. And then you add some calcium bentonite if you have it. If you don't have it, that's okay. Calcium bentonite is just clay, y'all. It's just clay. So you can actually create your own clay baths if you want to. You can create your own clay. You can look on YouTube, figure out how to make your own clay, and you can use that if you wanted to. So, but in general, calcium bentonite is clay, and there are different forms. There's green clay. There is the kind of gray, more muddy looking calcium bentonite or bentonite clay, and then there is the red clay. Okay, and so I will let you discern with that. I'm not a doctor. You can put all these things on your body topically, and you can bathe in them. And she said at the highest heat possible for about 20 minutes, and it will kill fungus, parasites, and remove nanotechnology. Okay, so that is my share update and healing tips. Let's see, anything else? Yes, the Great Mother says, hey everybody, hang in there, be patient. That's what she's been telling me, but she's telling me to share this with you guys. Be patient. I know it's looking really, really. We got a 50-50 going. We got a lot of really good stuff showing up, and we got some really, trepidatious stuff showing up. So, hold strong in your trust in the cosmos and the Great Mother and the Great Father, if that's your energy. The planet. They know what they're doing, even if we don't. Okay, that's the share for today. Until next time.